Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very pre-recorded episode of the Saturday Morning D&D show. My name is Jordan, with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. How are you?
Over here.
Yeah,
I'm
you're right over
pretty
there.
good. It's a
What's that?
different time at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
there was a lot to talk about, and I wasn't able to do Saturday morning, so we're going to do a Friday night, and then we'll air this tomorrow. But man, lots of stuff happened in the world of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, well, when you drop a UA like that, it's
Yeah.
pretty craziness.
Yeah. So Wizards of the Coast, not only did they drop a UA of a bunch of clerics and all these new races and things like that, they also had a video on the survey results from the last batch. And I mean, it was like in the tens of thousands, the number of responses they got. And I thought it was fun that they clarified that they're like, hey, even like, they're like, we can tell when, and I don't know how they can tell this, but one of the criticisms I saw was that people were saying you can give feedback even if you're not actually playtesting it. And it was like people, like some people online were upset about that because they're like, how do they know? But Wizards of the Coast came out and said, we are very aware of when you are just complaining on the internet, my words, not theirs, or when you are actually playtesting the stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then they encouraged, like, just everybody give your input. You know, this is the next version of D&D, and if you want input in it, like, the best way is the survey, not a comment on a video, not an entire video yourself. Like, they're not going to go through all of those, but they will go through the huge amount of data you give them via some kind of database that they can catalog everything together. And then they have a weird, I'm trying to think back to the video. They had a weird rating system where they want it to be over 50% approval rating for things.
Over 70%.
Or over 70? Okay.
Yeah, and he was saying, Jeremy was saying that most of the time something between 70% means that most people like it, they're on the right path. Maybe it needs a tweak or two, but it's kind of what they want. And if it's below 70%, it was like, well, okay, maybe they like it, but we should redress it because there's probably some things there that aren't quite clicking.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're interested in it, but it needs some refinement, right?
Yeah,
and it was like, but this survey came back, and we had stuff in the 80%, and 80%'s like, we like it so much. In my head, I was thinking, don't F it up. Like, leave it as it is. If it's 80%, 90%, just like, don't tweak anything. We want it this way. So it was like, there was a lot of those things that came in that were like a resounding, wow, we like this piece of it, that piece of it.
Yeah, it reminds me, when I was in college taking art classes, I remember my professor saying something like, he would walk around, he never did this to me, but he would walk around and look at like the students' artwork, and a couple times he would take it away from them. He's like, no, you'll just make it worse. Like, it's done, kind of a thing. And it reminded me of that, where you can over edit or over analyze stuff when really it was ready earlier. So it's kind of interesting that they're like, okay, but this feedback is I don't know, it's really weird because it's not, it almost feels like we're collectively building something together, even though they are the designers. And it has a very like community aspect to it that I think other tabletop RPGs would like to do something similar, but they're never going to get the amount of people that are invested because this has the D&D brand name to it. So everyone's like, oh, it is Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. So I don't know. I just thought that was kind of cool where there's so many people that are like really passionate about this, and it seems like they're listening, and they're going over data and things like that. There might be a little bit of some hubris. We'll kind of see when this actually comes to fruition in 2024. But I also saw another speculative article that said, based on words given, that they kind of want to have the playtest end summer of 2024, and then winter of 2024 have the books out to be published and bought. We'll see. I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I can see
pretty close.
2023 being the last of the books that they have in their pipeline
Yeah.
that are the normal things they're doing now, and then 2024 is really okay. We're doing our next thing. This next,
Yeah.
what? And they still haven't really committed to a name yet. Like even in that video, I was kind of waiting for them to hint. Should we be calling this 5.5e? Should we be calling this 6e? Should we be calling?
They want you to call it One D&D.
Yeah. One D&D, but I think that's the playtest name.
It is, yeah.
So I'm still waiting to see what they're going to do with this other thing and how they're going to brand that. But they also said something interesting about their testing. So not only are they doing that percentage testing, so they're gathering this information. You can put comments in, and they read the comments. They said we have our people going through all the comments and gathering all the relevant stuff. And I thought, I wonder who these people are and how can I be one of those people? Because wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Going through these and then saying, okay, Jeremy, I read through these 40,000 things, and here's the things I got out of it that these people were saying, and now let's talk about them. I think that'd be kind of cool. Because there's just these nameless people who are apparently gathering all this information for them. And then they said they do A/B testing also. So they may do a feature test, and then in another one of these UAs, they may change that just to see, okay, let's see if you really like that. Let's do an opposite thing, or let's do something that's a little different just to see, what were you telling us here? Does that still hold up to the here? So they are really coming at it from a design philosophy of testing. I always worry about, like, I don't know, it's like, is this just the 50,000 people that are adamant? Like, are you just getting the online 50,000 people? Or are you getting all the silent majority D&D player opinions? Or are you just getting the most fully, is this all Critical Role fans that filled this out, And I always wonder about how these surveys are and who's filling them out and what their experience and background is, just based on, because like we're sometimes in, we'll go through Twitter and we're pretty connected in the community, and there's a pretty vocal group, but those people don't necessarily represent the same people I see when I go to my game store and I see this group playing at the table, and they never go online and talk about it or whatever. They just come to their store, they play, they have their thing, they have their house rules. They've been playing for 20 years, 30-year campaign or whatever, and we never hear their opinions because they just don't get on and go on and on about their opinion.
Yeah, because there's like I see what you're saying, where you're like, man, those people are really loud. Are they the ones that are going to change D&D when really the rest of us are like, we're okay,
Yeah, we like it, so we haven't said anything. But the people that don't like it, they like to really say stuff, or something.
I would think that, kind of going back to what Jeremy was saying in the video, where he's like, we can tell if you've play tested it or not. I wonder if they could also tell, like, this guy's angry, we don't really need to listen to this, kind of a thing, and the fact of the sheer volume of feedback they're getting, which, after saying that, now I'm thinking, like, I should really take the
survey.
Yeah. And I specifically didn't take the survey because I didn't play test it, and that was kind of my mentality, was like, well, I haven't actually played with the rules, so I don't know. But I might live stream it at some point and just be like, no, I'm gonna dive in and just kind of talk about the things I like and the things I don't like. And then piggybacking on that, we have a new Cleric UA and species. So I was vocal on Twitter today about, because I was thinking, like, man, species, why does that bother me? And it's not that I'm hung up on, we have to call it race. I don't care. I actually prefer something like heritage or lineage. But I was thinking, species, just, it has a weird sound in my mouth. I think I just don't like it when it's like, what species? Oh, I'm a dwarf. I'm like, I don't know. That just feels weird. And it's because of that 1995 movie Species. I realize that that's what I'm thinking of every single time I say the word out loud, and I don't like that movie, and so I was like, oh, that's probably why.
I'm gonna jump ahead. Yeah. I want to challenge your thought on this. We're gonna come back to more One D&D, I promise. But I was just in the game store, and normally this is Paizo news, but I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. And I was flipping through the book called Starfinder: Interstellar Species.
Yeah.
It has 25 playable species that you can play in Starfinder, basically a Star Trek game. Now, how does the word species feel to you?
You're right. I like it a lot more when it's sci-fi. You're right.
It's sci-fi. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's just not a fantasy word.
It's not a fantasy word for me. Yeah.
Yeah. But Paizo uses that too.
you nailed it because yeah, if we're playing, I don't know, like if we're playing Mothership or Spell or Starfinder, or I'm trying to think of like even well, not Alien, but like yeah, I would definitely be like, oh, or even Star Trek, like oh, he's a
Star Trek
Klingon
for sure.
species or something. Yeah, like that just feels normal. You're right. I just don't like it with dwarf and elf for some reason. But
Yeah. I think it's just, and lineage to me and heritage is definitely more of a fantasy feel.
I wonder if they're trying to stay away from.
But that's what Paizo
Pathfinder,
has already too. So you got to be kind of careful if you're going to try to change it. But it could just become something that's nomenclature where race is kind of a bad word, not a bad word. Well, it is a bad
doesn't
word.
accurately describe what's happening.
Yeah, like if you're a
game.
goblin, and race is talking about within a species, right? There's different groups based on their physiology, but they're still the same species at that point. And then race would denote different types of that. But that's not the same when you're comparing like a goblin to a human. That's just two different creatures completely. Mm-hmm. So even saying lineage doesn't necessarily work when you're trying to compare a goblin and a human. I'm a goblin lineage. I'm a human lineage. So heritage, or I don't know what other names are out there. Like I was thinking of something like even like genetics or something, but that's like sci-fi too.
It just feels
like
too
I can't
sci-fi,
get to anything. Yeah. I don't know. What was Tolkien call the different? Does he call them the races?
That's a good question.
Races?
I don't know.
It must be. It must be. But that.
It must be race because that's probably where they got it. Because they stole a lot of things from Tolkien. So.
Yeah. So what else can we use? We got to talk to somebody who. Yeah, like scientists who catalog things in ancient times. Maybe they have some words that we could.
Maybe there's a fun Latin word. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Who knows?
Something like that.
So yeah, we have this Cleric playtest. I read through it. It seems fine and fun. And then I watched the video. And
I'm playing a Cleric right now, so I've got thoughts.
Jordan. Oh, okay, yeah. So, well, what are your thoughts? I'm curious then. Like, so
everything
you don't pick a
I was reading,
go ahead.
It seemed like I didn't see anything in there that said that's it, I'm out. Like I'm finding a new game. This is bull crap. They've broken my Cleric. It didn't seem anything like that. I thought most of his reasoning behind the changes they were making to Cleric made sense. Mm-hmm. Getting away from, and really some of the changes they're going to be broad against all of the different classes that are out there. Cleric, you might see it at first, but we're going to see it in the mage classes. We're going to see it in the martial classes, or what they call them, the I forget. They have the categories.
Or warriors.
The experts.
Yeah, sorry, warriors,
experts,
fighter, experts, mages, and priests. This is the priest
mages and priests.
area.
Yeah. Changing at third level, you get your subclass. I think that was the big one that when I first heard him say it, I thought, whoa, what's going on? But then as they explain, you don't really know, you don't get a chance to be a cleric, just a generic cleric, before you have to make that big choice. And then when they were talking about a new player coming in, and I was thinking, yeah, this is so good. Like, you're like, okay, Bob, you're going to play. This is your first time ever playing. And what kind of characters you want to play? He's like, oh, I don't know. I'd like maybe a healer, but they can fight. And you're like, okay, this cleric's going to be perfect for you. Now pick a subclass, and here's all 35 of them that you can choose from. So go ahead and choose that now too. It's like, and then that doesn't change. You can't pick another one later. It's just like, that's it.
Yeah. So I had a thought about that because they're changing feats. And I thought that was interesting. He brought it up and he's like, okay, yeah, you're going to be a cleric. Now pick one of these 35 different subclasses. And it's like, oh, that's too much. So we'll make it so he gets it at level 3. And it's like, okay, but you're going to have it be now start any character and choose from these 105 different feats.
But I think they're not going to do that. I think you're only going to have a small list of feats.
Okay.
I think you're going to have cleric specific feats that you would choose from, or your background's going to have feats, or your race or whatever they call it is going to have feats. They're not going to put them all in one big list and just say pick from the list. I think they're going to make it so it's easier to pick. I
also like having my subclass at first level originally, because usually it's hey, we're playing a game. It's set in this world, the Forgotten Realms. here are all the different gods. And you're like, oh, I really feel like I'm gravitating towards that like Leviatar god. And they're like, well, this subclass would really reflect that. And you're like, oh, okay. Rather than like now when you start, or not now, but like as of this playtest, you pick a god, and then by level 3, you're like, actually, like I don't know. I don't think I like this god anymore. Like, I really want to take this, like, domain of light, but I'm worshiping Leviatar. I don't think it really works. Can I change my god? And I'm like, well, yeah, and so I kind of look at that as like, same thing with a player who got to level 3 through the 2014 Cleric and was like, I'm not vibing on this. I'm like, then let's change it. Like, I'll let you change it, but
yeah. And that's what I think in my head.
Maybe
I have
I'm
to
just
change
looking
my
for
mindset.
negative things. I don't know.
No, I think I have to change the mindset a little bit, because I think you have to think of maybe that first couple of levels in any class as the very entry level. Like, you're not a cleric of this church yet, because remember, when a church, you don't get to just be a cleric on day one. You get to be altar boy to see if you're even going to be around, and then maybe you might be affiliated with a church of some sort, but you still aren't quite part of the religion part of it. You might be a part of, hey, we'll let you stand at the door during mass, or we'll let you guard the temple as just a regular guard, and you're affiliated with us, maybe through first, second, and third level. And then at third level is when you make the commitment. Are you ready to pledge yourself to this religious order and this god or this ideal? And from there on, and when you do, that's where that subclass kicks in, because now you're really committed.
I like that a lot.
This is what I'm doing.
But then I don't want my cleric to have magic on level 1 and 2. And that's where I don't like it. Like, for a wizard, it makes sense. You're like experimenting with magic, and then by level 3, I'm like, man, I am a conjuration wizard. I am so focused on this. I love conjuration spells. But a cleric, it doesn't feel like that. You don't kind of like feel out your god. You at level 1 are like, no, I'm devoted to this god. I don't know. Mechanically, I think it works great. But like narratively, I'm trying to understand, like, well, where does this magic come from if you're like this wishy-washy altar boy kind of a thing, like going on an adventure? I don't know.
And I think it's a change, because we're just so not used to it too. And I still have the problem of understanding that your magic can come as a cleric and you're not worshiping a god, because they've said that in many of the books lately, that you don't have to necessarily pick a deity to follow and still get your powers.
Yeah.
Or you don't lose your powers if you go to another world, typically.
Kind of like a druid. Like a druid wouldn't necessarily lose their magic.
Yeah, you're getting divine power coming from the divine magic that's out there, but it's not necessarily just Leviatar.
Eberron explains it really well. Like, the silver flame is this concept of like, and you just have access to it. You're chosen for whatever reason, But in the Forgotten Realms, it's very much like this god is giving different. You magic.
Yeah. So maybe in the Forgotten Realms, it makes sense to still house rule, picking your subclass. And there are some other mechanical things, because lots of people will pick this class or warlock as their, I'm going to multi-class into this because I can specifically get to subclass abilities at level 1 and not have to go very deep into the class. And I thought something that Jeremy said that was telling, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree, I'm still thinking about what he said, is that they want you to have a little bit more commitment to the class before you get to those abilities. They want you to slog through first level, second level, and third level, and then that cool thing pops up. Not that you just get that at first level and it's a common, well, I'm just going to dip in and get the warlock blade lock real quick, and then now I'm jumping back out. Like, there's no investment in it all of a sudden, because it's a min-maxing thing. I'm just going to take this because it gives me something he wants. And he says, we're really trying to pull out those things that make you feel like you have to do that. There's something there that says, if you choose cleric for just a single dip 1 to get something, they want to try to offer that to you some other way. Maybe it's a feat, maybe it's something else, so that you don't have to make that weird kind of concession to get the game feature you want, but then still play the character that you want, or still do the thing that you want. So I think they're moving in the right direction. I'm not saying they're making all the right steps. It's just
no, but
they're
I want to
thinking
say
along the right lines.
Yeah, but I want to say, like, piggybacking off of that, I really like this level 2 holy order thing, because that's exactly what they're doing, where you go through a first level of play, and then by second level you're like, man, you know what, I was in the background casting spells, but I really wanted to run up and like hit him with my mace. And it's like, well, then you need to take the protector holy order. And these orders are not tied to a god. You know, before it was like, if I'm going to worship Leviatar, I have to take these very specific cleric subclasses. And now that's like, oh, you want to be melee? Well, then you can't worship this person. If you want to do this, you can't. Now you could be the, like, I get heavy armor and I get weapon training, or I want to be the scholar and I'm more of like a studying the world kind of a cleric.
And a great example was that, because you could have life cleric, which was one that is a super popular subclass because it's the best healer version of that. And you get heavy armor, so people kind of felt like they needed to be a heavily armed, but they were the main healer. Healing was everything they did, but then they were still the heavy fighter with lots. He was like, no, you need to be able to play a great healer that just wears robes or does other things. You don't need to necessarily be the frontline protector. And those orders give you that chance to do different things.
Worshipping
where
the
you're
same
saying
god,
you still
but
could,
like,
different parts of it. So
different
are you
parts
part of the administration part? Are you part of the martial part? Are you part of ministering to the masses part? You know, and what area do you fit in with the church that you're helping? And I like how that makes the cleric more dynamic, because then a single cleric, like if me and you were both into Leviatar, but there are really different aspects. There could be one that's where I'm part of the warrior band that helps protect and go and do things, but you really are the one that is there, that is at the church and doing the ceremonies and the sermons, and then you are more on the more divine side, so lots more divine spells, lots more research into the histories and the great ancient divine things that could happen. And
maybe
so I just like that.
Maybe my game, whenever I write my own RPG or something, I'll just get rid of the idea of clerics altogether, and it'll just be like a bundled magic user. But then on top of that, have another system. So you could be the fighter that worships, Lathander, the god of mourning. Absolutely. And then you would kind of like from Mythic Odysseys of Theros, like you get certain abilities with how devout you want to be. So it doesn't matter, and then get rid of the idea of clerics altogether. Or you can just call yourself like, I'm a priest of so-and-so, but I'm actually mechanically a paladin, or I'm mechanically this, and kind of like divine magic's just kind of odd like that. So
yeah, I like that idea. I like the idea of
and I think that's what they did
magic
that
into magic. and yeah, magic is magic, not it's. In this, they're kind of doing 3 of them. Right?
Oh yeah,
because
that's huge.
Divine, arcane, and primal now.
I'm really surprised
the way they're separating it out.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Warlock casting is not getting its own magic subclass as well.
Yeah.
Because I part of me is like, well, Warlocks could be arcane. I mean, they are in 5e, but at the same time, like you could make a new kind of, not psionics, but something similar of like psychic, weird, far realm magic. I was kind of surprised by that, but not surprised, but like that's what got me thinking. I'm like, if you're going to start creating these weird spell lists, then you're inviting other people to create their own type of magic, their own spell list. But so traditionally it makes sense. The studied magic, the magic from a god, or the magic from like the earth, so.
Yeah. So you're getting channel divinity and spell casting at first level. They're making sure you have more than one use for channel divinity, as far as turn undead right away, right from the get-go, which I think is a great thing, that you're already a type of person that's like fighting the undead.
It's a very
I
classic,
still like that cleric thing.
Classic thing, so.
But you also can then use another version of that if you're not fighting the undead, which I always think is a good idea, because you don't want to have an ability that's so specific. Because if we don't have a campaign where any undead show up, then have I really felt like I was a cleric at that level?
I
then
can't tell you how many times,
which I think is great.
I think I've played a cleric twice in my 5e career. I don't think I've used turn undead once. Like it just felt kind of useless now that I think about it.
Rarely have I used
even with the extra abilities. It wasn't until Tasha's where you could turn it into extra spell slots or something.
Right.
But I do like this divine spark. I think it's weird we have these like magic actions now rather than like just action. I feel like that might be a little too confusing. I don't know.
Well, they're trying to. Yeah, there's a lot going on in these, and they even said that there's a lot of stuff going on because
26 pages.
they're trying to
so
fix
big.
the problem of the bonus action action economy, having so many things tied to it, and then you're not able to do it.
And
but
everybody
then
has a
you wanna
bonus
use
action,
these-
yeah. So
Yeah, so they're trying to move things around. Like something became a reaction. Resistance, the spell became a reaction spell, and he said they wanted to see if it's a spell that nobody uses because it's an action, or it's like the way you would use it. There's always a better option. But what
that's
if
the
it was
cantrip,
a
isn't it?
reaction?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. Now if it's a reaction, would it get more use? Because now I have a reaction that I could probably use at different times. So feed it at 4, and then it kind of moves on. So the cleric feels stronger. I like the idea that I saw a lot of stuff being tied to proficiency bonus too.
Yeah, and that's something we've seen. Yeah, which I like because then there's like a mechanical you scale, and if you multi-class, they're all pulling from that same proficiency bonus per day. So yeah, it's not like, oh well, I get it 3 times per day, and then I also get this 5 times per day because of this, and it's like no, you have a limited number, which is funny because it's counteractive to like the bonus action thing we were just talking about, where it's kind of nice when everybody has a bonus action, but like I see what they're trying to do. So
yeah, and this Divine Spark is interesting because it says as an action, magic action, specific, capital M. So like you said, it's a specific thing. You point your symbol at another creature you can see within 30 feet and focus energy on them. Roll a number of d8s equal to your proficiency bonus.
yeah,
So low levels of 2, and then add those rolls together. And that can you can either heal with it or you can hurt a creature with it.
Yep.
Or you can make them make a saving throw, and if they do, then they take radiant damage. That's so good. That's such a smart, cool
it's
idea.
easy to
I
understand.
wish there was more of
always have this regardless of spells.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I'm
it
out
can
of spell
heal
slots.
or it can hurt. Like, and I love that's so cleric to me that I have things that can help, but they also can hurt if that's what I want them to do. And there's that dichotomy inside you that said, I love that tension of a person thinking that I have this power that does both, and I'm the one that controls it. It's just such a cool idea. So I'm glad that's in. That was really cool. Other than that, it feels like a more powerful version of the cleric. I've been playing cleric now for months with my. I started out arcane archer, and I've split into my twilight cleric. But I'm 7 and 7, so it's 7 levels of arcane archer, 7 levels of cleric, and I mostly play as a damage dealer, but then all my spell use is clerical stuff to help the party out and buff somebody, or I do a lot of increasing people's ACs or doing bless so that they get their saving throws. Very little healing because we have somebody else that does the healing, but all the other little things that you might get that are not the healing piece of it. And so I like the class. I love it, and I feel like even if I have this one, I feel like I'd be pretty powerful with it even if I didn't. So, and the only subclass they put in here at the moment is the life. And he does say there's...
Oh, I lost you. Are you here?
Uh-oh.
Oh, are you back? Is it me?
I'm back.
Okay.
No, I think it was me. Internet connection is unstable, it says.
Oh, goodness.
Is my camera back? Oh, here it
Yep,
comes. I think
you're
it's
back.
back. There, okay. Sorry. They said there's one signature subclass with each of the classes, that's easy to pick. It's very symbolic of that main class. But all of them are going to have 4, right? So the first book is going to have, I forget what Ted said it was. There was a number.
It's like
it was
35 or
number.
something. It's a lot of subclasses,
Yeah, 12 times whatever.
Well, 12 times 4. Yeah.
So 48. That's what it would be. 48 subclasses that we're going to get at some point.
Yeah, like the wizard had 8 in 2014, one for each school of magic. And so I don't know. I love wizards the most, so I'm most curious about the wizard playtest. I keep wanting them to give us that, but they're saving it for the end.
What class have you been playing the most lately? Like in the last month or two, what's the class you've been playing?
Oh, that's a artificer with DM Nathan. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to see what they do with the artificer if they change
I don't think
anything
we'll
or
see
not
anything because that artificer's not going to be in the core book. Maybe it will be. Who knows?
I'm thinking they're going to add it. But all right, well, I think the cleric's pretty good. But what do you think about the species? The Ardling is back. Ardling with some changes.
So I actually looked this up because I was kind of curious about it. The Ardling is an old monster species from second edition, I think.
Okay.
Because I didn't get this whole celestial thing. I was really confused by that. But now, after reading that, I was like, oh, okay, they're like these weird kind of angelic animal things. I don't think I'll ever
Celestial
play
animals.
a Ardling. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know. And I
I felt like this is how you play a cat person or a bear person,
Well,
or
that's
a
the
squirrel
thing,
person,
yeah.
or a dog person, or a
Yeah. And that's what
like an
they're doing.
Anubis.
And so we're kind of getting rid of all of those races, species. Like, we won't have lizard folk anymore. They'll be an Ardling. We won't have
Possibly.
Tabaxi. They'll be an Ardling. I
could see
did
that.
think it's funny they had Triceratops in here, or like Raven. Like, we won't have
Kenku.
what's our Kenku? Yeah, like our Kenku gone, and they're now going to be ravens. Our Aarakocra gone, and they're now Ardling eagles. Or are we going to bring those back? I don't know. This is nice though, because anytime I want to create this for my home group, I have this, and it's like, okay, cool. I don't have to go out and buy something. We can just say, yeah, I'm going to call this an Aarakocra, but really you're an eagle Ardling. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I don't know. I feel like it's that furry thing where people. I've never wanted to play something like this, I guess. So,
Yeah,
not that there's anything wrong with it.
It's
just
play an animal.
it never appealed to me. Yeah.
That there's so many animals that somebody might want to play that there's no way they could ever come out with enough. I mean, they could, but they're not typically going to try to bring out a book for all of them, because like there could be the person that says I like ferrets and I want to be the ferret person.
Yep.
Or, I mean, I want to be a bear dude. Like that's one of the ones that I thought.
I do like frogs. I would
put
like
that
to
in
play
my campaign.
a grung.
Bear dudes.
So yeah, resist. Yeah, so some of these are kind of cool, and then the divine magic really does tie it back to where they were, where you can get a spell from.
Yeah,
and
they're saying you still would have. This doesn't get rid of your ASMR. ASMR are still a thing. ASMR
that was something I was
still...
confused by. Yeah, because they were like, well, does this like they were saying. I think they were saying the Ardling, or people were interpreting it because it's like a very celestial kind of thing.
Yes.
But no, they said Azamar are still going to be in the game. So this is all separate. This is literally a new race, and it's just the catch-all animal race. So could work. I really think they need to take the divine magic away. Maybe not, or maybe call it primal magic if we're going to focus on the fact that because it says celestial animals in the Beastlands, and I get it, that's part of a D&D history, but if you want it to just be the catch-all, really just focus on the primal aspect of it. But
well, I mean, if you spell gem over to Pokemon, you got to do something.
Yeah.
You got to have your Poke creatures. But what about the Draconic? The
Dragonborn. People were excited about this. I guess they tweaked the breath weapon.
That was the thing.
I didn't pay attention last time what people were upset about. I do like that Draconic Flight is a 5th level thing. I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah. What I like this breath wearing, because you can choose between cone or line.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like this type chain. Before you would choose a type and it would tell you either got the cone or the line.
Acid would be a line. Lightning would be a line. Yeah. Which you think about it, you're like, what does a cone of lightning look like? But now that's pretty cool image to think about. So
yeah. So I do like that.
I think that's really cool. What I was blown away by was the Goliath, and I was not expecting it to be in this playtest, I guess.
This is cool.
But they straight up just made it your part giant. And when I think of the Goliath before, I always thought of them as like big giant people, but I never really associated them like with giants.
With the giants.
And now I'm like, well, that just makes so much sense. I'm a little confused why they have 35 feet of movement, because I thought we were all going to be 30. Yeah, but
they're 7 to 8 feet tall.
That's true. I don't know, but yeah, the fact that you have giant ancestry, and then depending on the one you choose, you get cool stuff. So Stone's endurance
I'm choosing
is
Cloud
really
John.
Stone Giant is kind of the same Goliath we have now, But like Frost Giant, you can add some cold damage. Fire Giant, add
Giant.
fire damage. Cloud Giant, you can teleport. Like there's some cool stuff.
As a bonus action.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Up to proficiency. Again, linked to your proficiency. So I think that's really cool.
Yep.
The Storm Giant is you do 1d8 thunder damage on a creature as a reaction. That feels like it should be lightning damage to me. I wonder if that's a misinterpretation, because like the idea that when I take damage, I like this idea that I like shock out at them and it's lightning damage. Thunder damage is kind of like, what do I roar at them? Like where's the noise, you know?
I've always wondered about the difference between lightning and thunder, but in the game I get it. Everybody typing in chat right now, well, Lucian,
Well,
there's a difference between thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
I know the difference. I just in this game they made a different thing.
One
Yeah,
is
they didn't make a difference with fire and something else when it's the two same things.
Yeah. But storms, thunder, storm giant, I don't know.
Yeah. Storm
we'll
King's Thunder. That's the only way it works.
Yeah. The large form is really cool. So at 5th level, you can grow and become pretty cool and big and get advantage and stuff.
Hulk out.
Which is kind of what I was trying to do with my Warforged fighter a long time ago. I actually, it was an Eldritch Knight Warforged, and I actually took like the reduce or enlarge spell so that I could make myself bigger, and then I get an extra D4 on attacks. And in my mind, I'm like, this is going to be so cool. I have advantage on all these things, but it never worked out. And it
wasn't quite.
It just never worked out, and it was a concentration spell. So I was looking at this, and I'm like, that's what I wanted. That's really cool. But this also, I like large forms because you are bigger, you hit harder, kind of a thing. But you also have more surface area on that grid to be attacked, which I thought a lot of people don't think about that. And it's like, well, if you got a lot of little guys, and you're like, I'm going to take them all out. It's like, oh, they get a lot more attacks on you now.
So those were the main things that were added. Now there is it's a 26-page PDF.
Yeah, a lot of spells.
That's up to page 10. But they said after these parts, they're going to keep putting in the normal rules that they're sticking with or are still part of the playtest from before, so that those things are still there for people to see them. And so what you'll see is a lot of spells or a lot of things that they've been talking about. The one I saw everybody kind of talking about a little bit was a spiritual weapon. Now
what was
being
going on with
concentration, and it's not at the moment. So you can cast spiritual weapon, and it's not a concentration spell. It allows you to have your spiritual weapon out. You could move it with a bonus action or attack with a bonus action, but it's not concentration. So if you get hit, it doesn't just go away. And I think he was saying that. Now, if you just think about that, I'm going to put out a spectral weapon of some sort, and it's going to go out and attack. You would think you would have to concentrate on that, right?
Well, but spiritual weapon is not concentration now.
No, but they're going to turn it into it.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay, they're going to make it.
Yeah.
Concentration.
They're going to make it concentration.
Okay, I see the difference now. Gotcha. Yeah, no, because the wizard spells, like the Mordenkainen dagger and all that other stuff, that's all concentration, but although
and I don't necessarily like that idea.
We'll see. And I mean, you could always house roll it, I guess, but like I don't think it's a problem, because I had some players that took spiritual weapon, and they always think it's going to be so cool, but the fact that it would move only 20 feet means that like my 30-foot movement monster would always get out of range, and then they would just look at it and be like, well, that's not
doesn't
working.
do a ton of damage.
And I'm like, you're right, it's not working. So I don't know.
And there's lots of other things you can do with that bonus action, which I find my problem, because I use it a lot as my cleric.
Yeah.
But other things bump into it that makes me want to do other things than move that around once it's been out. But every now and then I get some use out of it. So I don't think it needs to be changed, because I think it's working fine as it is.
Yeah.
What I don't like about it is concentration, is the idea that it just goes away if you get hit, if you have a low save DC. And some people could have a low save DC. So that's why I hate the one part about concentration on that one. Maybe it could be concentration so you can't do another concentration spell, but it'd be nice if there was a blurb in that said, but this one won't be broken if you take damage. So that way it could stay out, you can concentrate on it, it can keep fighting. You don't lose it if you take damage. All it's doing is preventing you from having 2 concentration spells up at once. Yeah. That I would be fine with, but I don't want to throw it out there get hit immediately and then it's gone immediately. I just hate the idea of that.
No, and I think the wizard already has this problem because there are
believe
spells
so,
like not even I forget the name, but it's the Mordenkainen Blade one that's just not as good. But there's a transmutation spell that wizards get where you like make your body all like hulking and big and awesome. And that one's concentration. And it's so annoying because it's like on paper
it's meant to go in.
Yeah, but like when you're meant to go, when it's cast on self, I can't cast it on somebody else. But when you cast it on yourself and then you go into battle and you get hit and it's not like I had a player who really loved polymorph and the whole thing was like, I'm going to turn myself into an ape and I'm going to run in there and I'm going to do all this. And then it's like, okay, make a concentration check, and then they fail that and they pop back out. And then that's talking to him later, I'm like, what you really should do is cast it on somebody else. And he's like, but I want it cast on me. Like, this is the reason I took this. And I was like, yeah.
I think on those, if it's cast on self, it should be, and it's going to be melee based. And that's kind of polymorph like is exactly that, because you don't get ranged attacks with polymorph. You get to turn into a beast who then has to melee and take hits. So there should be a little blurb in there, and I would house rule it in any of my games at this point. Damage won't break this concentration if you've cast it on yourself, but you still have the limitation of not being able to cast another concentration spell.
Yeah.
Because I think that makes those two spells better. So if you're going to do concentration with spiritual weapon or polymorph, they don't break if you're using them yourself, but they do prevent you from,
I agree. I'm just thinking out loud now, but like if you would just have to put a word in there that says like don't make the spell concentration. Like let's take polymorph. You say if you cast this on yourself, remove the concentration line. This spell fails when you cast another spell that has concentration, or something like to that effect.
Yeah.
Or like maybe you can't cast spells while under the effects of polymorph or something because you can't speak correctly. Or
that's true. Maybe separate the ones where if you do take damage, they shut down, and those would be those big area of effect storm spells that you're having to concentrate. And the idea is you're not moving, you're doing it from range, you're trying to hold it there. And if something comes up and interrupts you, it could shut the spell down. That makes sense. There should be a term for that. But then concentration's about how many of these types of spells can I have? And I can only have one type of concentration, so that's that. But then we need another word or a keyword for breaks the spell if you take damage. So we need another word for that.
Well, welcome to Lucian and Jordan make their own homebrew tabletop role-playing game. Yeah, I don't know. Then we we can move on, but it just gets me thinking, like, then are we creating too many systems upon systems to like make it work? And who knows? But
we love systems.
This is the point: is that there's something there. But yeah, I don't think. Hey, Oscar Dog. He's a good boy. Boy, I was looking at Barkskin for some reason, and that spell just still seems bad to me. Like, it's bad now. It's bad. It's still bad. They changed it to giving you you can give someone temporary hit points, but it's also concentration. I'm like, if you're just giving somebody some temporary hit points, that does not need to be concentration. Like, here's 10 temporary hit points for a second level spell. You're good. Move on. If it's concentration, that needs to refresh itself every single round or something. But
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway, that's the playtest. We've got other news to talk about, I suppose. Let us know what you're interested in. I'm really curious because, like, I don't know, lots of stuff. PAX Unplugged is happening.
I bet people are there tonight. Things are kicking off.
It started today. People got there Thursday night, I think. There's. I haven't seen anything announced, but I know that they're having an Acquisitions Incorporated game that I'll probably check out once it goes to VOD, and I can look at it there. And then before we ship over to Paizo and stuff, I wanted to talk about Keith Baker released Chronicles of Eberron, which is a new DMsGuild supplement that he released, and I did buy it. I've got a sad chili dog, sorry. I did buy it, and I haven't had a chance to super look at it yet, but it's another one of those like exploring Eberron where he really gets to dive in and make the the make Eberron what he's always kind of wanted and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like there are some new classes and ways to add other species / race into it. Like if you wanted to have Dampiers or Kenku, how do you make them kind of fit into Eberron, which I thought was really cool. And then I was gonna look, where are the... Oh yeah, so I just want to read these off, but there's Bard, College of the Fury. I almost said furry. Bard, College of the Fury. Cleric, the Aspiration Domain. Rogue, the Dark Petitioner. And then he has these new things called Forbidden Feats and Forbidden Metamagics, which I thought was kind of cool. And so it's like, you can, I mean, it's a feat, it's metamagic, but like the idea that you can introduce it into your campaign as like, ooh, this is like a spooky side, which reminds me of Invisible Sun has the night side path. And that's something I really liked, where they came out with a whole supplement book for that game that was like, here are the like creepy forbidden spells, which are kind of fun. So anyway, I'll get a review of that sometime. I got to read through it. I'm really excited. I got a print on demand copy too, so it's coming in the mail. But yeah. What's happening?
Well, back to PAX Unplugged a moment, because I went a couple of years ago, and it is an interesting place down in Philadelphia. The convention hall isn't as big as Gen Con if you've gone there, but you will see a lot of the same people. Oh yeah. And it does seem a little bit more like accessible because there wasn't the crowds that you had at Gen Con, so you could go through all the cool booths and stuff. And you would see a lot of the major players. They had big gaming areas where they were either testing games or playing games, or you could rent a table and your group could just sit there and play games all day. You could do card tournaments and all the things. And like you said, the live shows are happening in another area. There's a really cool food bazaar thing that's right next to it. There's like a mall across the street, double story, but in the bottom area, it's like this famous kind of marketplace right there in downtown Philadelphia. It's kind of cool. But man, was the parking not fun and great, and none of the hotels seemed to be near that place. So,
oh really?
That was a crazy one if you ever do decide to go that. And a lot of the rooms are small.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of games that you can sign up for. So don't go to that without some plans to just be able to find a corner with your friends and play versus thinking you're going to go and sign up for a bunch of D&D games that are going to be happening. So.
Yeah. Ted said that there were 3 conventions going on at the same time, and PAX was one of them. And I was like, really? This weekend? He's like, yep, it was poor planning. Really poor. I was like, oh. So I think it's going to be one of the ones I try to go to next year. And then I also think I'm going to try and go to PAX West. I'm going to go back to Seattle and try to hit that one up.
That'd be a good one.
And that's not tabletop, but there is tabletop stuff. And it's closer for me because I'm on the West Coast. I'm not on the East Coast like all of y'all's. So
that one I'd like to make, or the PAX Australia would be the one.
That would be epic. Just to, I want to go see Hobbiton.
That'd be so cool. All right, so I did have a little bit, a tiny bit of Paizo news. So I was in the game store tonight because normally I go after our show, but today I went just before our show as I was picking up dinner, so I stopped at my game store. And I picked up the book, Starfinder Interstellar Species. That's the one that's out right now that you can order. And it had 25 playable species. The artwork in this book is fantastic. 7 options for classes that already exist that kind of are in this book and introduced in this. So definitely a player book that you could pick. This is like the ultimate kind of player book. And then a new class called the Evolutionist, and has some really cool things about that. And I was just thinking, if I just read those 3 bullet points to you, Jordan, I said, in January, Wizards of the Coast is going to give us a book that has 25 playable races, 7 options for existing classes, and a whole new class. Are you buying this book without even knowing the name?
Yeah.
See, that was just like, this is like, Paizo knows what they're doing. I'm just like, it's so crazy how good this is. And it makes me want to play Starfinder so bad. And I still want to play Pathfinder. I don't have enough time for that. How am I going to play Starfinder and have enough time for that?
Yep.
But I wanted to bring it up because it looked really good. I'm probably going to buy it just because I'm a sucker for buying all these TRPG games that I may never get to play, but I'm going to have their books. I think it looked really cool. If you're into Starfinder, this looks like a book you definitely want, because not only as you as a DM can get some inspiration from this, but it feels like your party could have all kinds of cool inspirational ideas for their characters that they're going to play in your campaign. And this is a perfect kind of book for them. So you might want to check and pick that up. The other thing I saw while I was in there, I was just walking out because somebody had said, I was telling you about I couldn't find players that wanted to play certain games, and I had somebody join our stream from our audience here, and they said, "Oh, have you tried asking at the game store if there's people there playing?" I went by a board that had an advertisement for the first time ever that I've seen. It's a guy trying to organize a game for Star Trek Adventures. I was
No
like,
way!
Look at this. What's going on here? Now the problem is he wants to play on Saturdays, and I'm like, no, that's my show day.
Well,
so I'm gonna have to see when they're playing or what's happening, and
but
I thought that was cool.
That is really cool. Yeah.
So I was like, that could be fun.
Now that I think about it, like as I've been doing a lot of writing, and as I'm writing more stuff, like Module D6, I should just go to the game store and be like, hey, I'm going to be running a new RPG on this night and see who shows up, kind of a thing. Because now that I think about it, that's way better than me pestering my friends constantly. like, oh, you're available right now? I don't care who you are. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, we'll play right now.
Roll some dice. Yeah, do this. So I thought that was kind of cool. And I saw something, I was flipping through Twitter, and then this popped up in one of my feeds. Green Ronin is offering a mega bundle on Drive-Thru RPG, where we like to get a lot of our PDFs and stuff. 60 of their titles that they had written using the OGL of all 3rd edition and 3.5 edition stuff, D&D and all kinds of stuff. They call it the 3rd Era Mega Bundle. 60 titles. It's like only $30 and you can get like, these are big PDFs. These are, they put out legit books and games for for the OpenGL, the D20 open system. If there was anything you wanted from Green Ronin that happened during 2000 and 2008, there's an awesome bundle package going on that I would recommend you go check out over at
probably some really great stuff. So why not?
One other piece of news, because we love Monty Cook Games, MCG. They were advertising. They do a thing that I think is super cool and actually is one of the genesis of the show, which is New Game Master Month in January. They're a big supporter of getting new game masters to run their first game. Our show was founded and started on when I sent the message to Jordan about we could just talk about running games, and maybe that would encourage somebody to run their very first game as a dungeon master, and we could talk about the games we run and what we go through. And that's perfect. So every January they run this. Check out their website because they do a lot of things, and basically they're like, this is a month where we try to help you get from where you're at right now to running your first game. So wherever you're at, whatever like any obstacle system you have, whatever thing, we're going to try to help you.
I think they try to support their systems, obviously, but like really it's for any game. Like they just like the world needs more dungeon masters, and you would be surprised how creative it feels, and just like I prefer running games. Like I think it's an amazing hobby. So your imagination gets used so much. You get a lot of use out of your imagination for your character, but you get so much more building your campaign and thinking about how your friends and your players are going to get to interact with that world. You think about that. You think about things that may never happen in the game, but you're thinking about it just in case it does happen. And I think when you make a character, like I always think of like, oh, this character, and like he has so much potential, but when you're a game master, you're thinking like stories and all kinds of stuff. And so you look at that character that somebody made, and it's like, oh, he has all this potential. And I'm like, oh man. And like, whoa, we're going to go places. Like, that sounds so cool. So that's awesome. Yeah, I forgot about that. And they're opening up the Cypher system to the OGL. So I think you'll be able to make Cypher system stuff at putting your own things out. And their next book that they're going to talk about and release is called Adventures in Cypher System. Oh, cool. They always run Kickstarters and things for the games they do, so that they put the books out. So that one's in January, and we'll get a notice about that one. I've pretty much bought every Kickstarter they've done, so I'm pretty sure I'll be... Weird. I'm really excited for when that book arrives. And I was just rereading Planewalker the other day, and I'm like, yeah, this book is so good. Like, Planebreaker? Or Planebreaker, yeah. Yes, I love it so much. It's so I forgot about the subclasses in it, and I was like, oh, and you know, I'm lately I'm not getting sold on subclasses. I feel like you have to put them in for them to make it like, well, it's a legit thing. Like this Eberron book. It had subclasses, and I'm like, okay. And that was the first thing we kind of talked about. The least interesting thing, or the thing I am interested in the least. Like, there's so much more stuff in there, but because now there's so many, I think is why. We're oversaturated for sure. So, but
So that was all the news I saw. I didn't know if you'd seen anything else or.
No, I think the big one was just PAX, and I bet there's going to be a lot of stuff this weekend coming out from Wizards for PAX, because they don't go to Gen Con anymore, but they like Penny Arcade. So
Yeah. Oh, and I think we already know what the next book for Wizards of the Coast is. I think even Ted was talking about it because they've already announced it. It's the anthology one, right?
The Vault of the Keys, yeah.
Yeah, so that should be the next one we start to hear about.
It's an anthology book, and it's all based on heists. Like, every adventure is like a heist. And I didn't even put this together, but it's going to totally be a tie-in with the movie. And the movie's about a heist and stealing something back and things like that. And so I think that they're going to be like, oh, you want to play the movie? Here you go. You know, here's a player's handbook, and here's this, and you can play the movie, kind of a thing, which is not a bad thing. But the movie is April or March, and it's going to come out right around the time that book comes out. Because if I remember, it's usually we just got our Dragonlance Christmas book, which is out today, right? The second, or is it next week?
No, I didn't see it on the shelf, so I was wondering if is it the 9th when it comes out?
It's got to be this Tuesday.
Must be next week.
The 6th, yeah. But when that comes out, I think it's going to be, that's Christmas. So that means that the next one is going to be that, which I think that Planescape was at the very end. And so that means Planescape's not coming until Christmas, probably like a year away. Which is fine.
Right.
I'll be done with my Planescape game just as it comes out. It'll be great.
Perfect.
No problem there. So a little bit about Modron March. I'm still doing Modron March. We had a really good game last night on and Ted was playing from his hotel because he went to PAX. So that kind of warms my heart that he's like, I want to play so bad that I'm gonna make the effort to play here. But they had a good time. Yeah. And they're running around. They always go the direction I'm not anticipating. And I gave them a cool magical key that transports them somewhere. And they were like, oh, neat. They put it in their pocket. And then they spent the rest of the whole game trying to figure out how to get to Bitopia. And I'm like, there's nothing there for you. And they're like, well, I really think we should go. We're at the gate to Bitopia. How do we get through? And so then I finally... they're in Bitopia now, so next week I have to come up with a whole Bitopia adventure.
Nice.
It's gonna be fun. So and then I'm really excited. I have not done Dungeon Crawl Classics in many moons because of the show that I'm in, the holidays, people traveling, my son's birthday, lots of stuff happening. But we are officially getting back to Dungeon Crawl Classics this Sunday, and it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Everyone's really chomping at the bit. People have been texting me. They're just like, oh man, we're on, right? I'm like, yeah, it's not a lie. So that'll be fun, and I'll be sure to talk about that in a future video. What's going on in Dungeon of the Mad Mage?
Well, we're getting through there. We had skipped last week, and we got to play this week on Thursday, so just last night. Everybody had a really good time playing. We threw our DM a curveball by not murder hoboing somebody he thought we were going to murder hobo, so then he had to figure out what he was going to do with that character because he was sure we were just going to murder him, and he wouldn't have to think any further than that on him. But we were it was this one last drow that we found on this little, and we're like, hey... We pretty much wiped out all the other drow and all the drow you were fighting because there's 2 drow houses that were fighting each other. We kind of went through all of them because they attacked us immediately. And we're like, so you're the only one that's left. So do you want to be our drow guy? And then you can create your own drow group and we'll support you, but we're going to fund you and we'll do that, and then you're on our side. You're our ally. So it was just so we kind of tried to talk about it, and we've done this every few levels. So we have Goblin faction that is loyal to us on one level. We have a Hobgoblin faction loyal to us on one level. We've saved them and freed them and then helped prop them up and bring them stuff to make them stronger on their level. We have a Troglodyte faction, and we just last night tried to start building our own Drow faction. Yeah. So that the idea is that on each of these levels, certain ones we're only through 14 of them, we have this Ac Inc., has this stronghold of forces that they can use as they want to delve through and go through these places and stuff. So we're setting up these little groups, and we just thought it was fun. So that was really fun. We did get a hint, possibly from our drow ally here, that says there still might be on this level a lich. So we might get to fight a lich. I've never got to fight a lich in D&D yet. I mean, I know of them, and I think I've had them as a bad guy that my group didn't get to yet.
Yeah.
And I knew they were building up to it, but the campaign never quite got that far, and I was going to run it, and I was excited about it. But I've not got to fight one as a character, so this will be interesting.
As a DM, you got to know all the spells.
Yes.
Like you got to have them there looking at it. It's kind of difficult, but that's huge. You know,
I think that could be fun. So that could be a pretty cool battle. We've been getting into some really big battles because obviously we're 14th level characters, so you really have to throw some craziness stuff at them. I mean, the fight we had on Thursday, and yes, it's spoilers for all this, was like 5 fire giants and then like a leader fire giant that was even bigger and tougher than normal fire giants. Plus they had a bunch of hellhounds with them, and then I also think they might have had either drow with them, or they had some other, maybe it was goblin. No, it wasn't goblins. It was something like hobgoblins or something with them. And so we had some big fights where stuff's happening and like 30 bows are getting shot off, and our guy looks like a pin cushion and we're barely making it. And but that's the kinds of fights we're in now that are just really cool and fun. And but I think we're about to go down to level 15, and we'll see what's down in that level here pretty soon. So we're getting down there, and it's been really fun slogging through this. I think we all are starting to think about the next campaign. These levels are going a little bit quicker. We know we're nearing the end of what this probably storyline will take us. And we are kind of starting to get...
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this, but like you like dungeon crawls, and I like dungeon crawls, but like you also reach a point where you're just like, I don't think I really care about what's going on around that corner. Like they make these epic dungeons that you look at and you're like, wow, that's so cool. I don't think I want to go through all of it, but but there's ways to jump around and stuff, I'm sure. And you guys are, if you're all feeling that, I'm sure the DM is feeling it. It's like, okay, we're going to wrap this up. It's going to be fun.
And he's running it for 2 parties. So that's what's always been cool about this, is he always gets to tell us his home party runs through this, and they're about 2 levels ahead of us because they had started a couple of months before us. So he always, at the end of our sessions, says, for those of us that want to stick around, here's what happened to the party when they went through this. And that was such a cool idea of, oh, that's what happened to them, and that happened, but we did this and it was different. It's such a cool perspective. If you have the ability to run the same campaign but for 2 different groups, don't ever look down on that, because I think there's a real value to watching 2 different groups tackle the same thing but different ways, and different things happen, and a different story has developed, even though we started at the same point. We started at the very, we all went down the tunnel.
And you don't have to do it at the same time. Like I'm having this experience with Dungeon Crawl Classics and or Hot Springs Island. Like they're tackling things in a very different direction, so it's kind of fun. But that's our show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna go get some dinner because I'm hungry. We will be back maybe next week. I think we might be busy. We'll see if we do another Friday.
Did we tell them it wasn't live? Did we tell them this is a pre-recorded show in front of a live studio audience?
In front of a live studio YouTube something. Anyway,
like, Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
We'll be back sometime with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. Take care, everybody.
We will.